What's going on, amazing folks? In this episode, we will take a brief look at the conversation heard around the world. There was a breakup that took place on Thursday's episode, and I really wanted to talk about it and get people's viewpoint on it. And let's start off with, hey, did you even know what was said? Let's start off here. Okay, there's some things that were said. Before I get into it, though, I want to say thank you to the amazing people who have supported the channel. There is no channel without you. I'm finding that out the hard way, so I have to say I appreciate your support. And this episode is brought to you by none other than the Really Hood Podcast, my podcast, which is available everywhere. And also, it is brought to you by brokenheartshirts.com. That is my website. I mean, yeah, my fashion site where I make these cool shirts. So check it out. But I want to start off with what Alyssa tells Kyle. Now, if you don't understand what's going on, maybe you're watching this 2 or 3 years from now. You're like, hey, so what happened again? I need a refresher. I'll give you one very briefly, a very brief refresher, rather. So Kyle is on a house apology tour as a result of some questionable comments in which I feel a certain way about, but that is not what this episode is about. Some players, i.e., Michael, Brittany, took some things that he said, some implications about him wanting to start an alliance, and they pretty much twisted his words. Whether you call that good or bad, it's what happened. I would say well played. Okay, I've had some time to think about this. Well played, Michael. And they twisted his words and they pretty much spread some seeds, mostly around the black players in the game, and that created an uproar. All right, so Kyle is at this point in the game on the outs, and he has to go around and he's apologizing to everybody. And one of his ride or dies from the beginning of the game was Alyssa. I think this past tense at this point because some things take place, but it was Alyssa. And in this episode, I can't help but notice how far Alyssa is standing away from Kyle. She is visibly disgusted by Kyle in this episode. If you've been watching the episodes, especially the live feeds, which I don't, but I know a lot of people do, Kyle and Alyssa were not as strong. They didn't have the kind of foundation that a Rachel and Brandon have. Some of these other showmasters we've seen over the years, they didn't have that kind of foundation because in this season, Kyle left Alyssa in the dark with regards to the leftovers alliance. That typically doesn't happen with traditional showmasters, but that happened here. Some of those type of things certainly mattered to the outcome in which I'm about to speak on. So we fast forward in this episode, and Kyle and Alyssa are in the room. This is following. Let's see here. This is following the veto nomination reveal in which Michael brings Brittany down and then Turner puts Kyle up. So this is following that moment. And Kyle and Alyssa are in the room and they're discussing their future. Kyle was fresh off of apologizing to Monty and Terrence. And one of the biggest bombs that I can recall in this episode is dropped on Kyle. And you know what I'm talking about. Alyssa says the following. She says she can't see herself having a relationship outside the house. And when she said it, I had to wait, can you say it again? Because I didn't expect you to say that. Alyssa has been right by Kyle's side. Look, on what was that last Thursday during the BB Twist Dire Fest, you got to remember something. Joseph revealed to Alyssa all these different things to Kyle. One of the most prominent things that Joseph reveals to Alyssa is that, hey, Alyssa, when you and Indy was on the block, it was actually Daniel who campaigned to bring you down. Kyle said nothing. And you know what Alyssa said? She said, but okay, he wasn't forthcoming. But Joseph, what about you? Have you told me things? Have you come to my defense? Have you brought information my way about the leftovers? And of course, Joseph says no. And Alyssa says, well, you're just as bad as he is. I'm paraphrasing here. So during that moment, I realized, hey, she really likes this guy so much so that she's willing to forgive just about anything. Because in a relationship, if you've ever been in one, if you are in one, whether it be a marriage or you're dating or what have you, you know that when one half of the relationship withholds information, that's a big deal. It only comes second to lying. Being lied on or lied to rather. But in this case, withholding information is almost as bad as a lie. And Alyssa hears that Kyle withheld information, yet it is not enough for her to condemn him at that particular moment. So I go into this week thinking to myself, look, Kyle has done something that is perceivably bad. He said some things that, the house guests believe were bad things to say. And even with that being the case, she is still going to support this man. But I'll read it again because when I heard it, I needed to hear it twice. All right. It was no way I could hear it twice, but Alyssa follows up that quote with something even more impactful. And I'll read that in just a second. Again, I'm going to read this again. Alyssa says that she can't see herself having a relationship outside the house. So apparently this was a conversation that was taking place between the two. Like, hey, so what are you doing when we leave the house? Is it going to be a thing? So forth and so forth. And I didn't hear it the first time I heard it. I didn't expect it, so I heard it. But then she hits him with the most biggest low blow I've ever seen. It's like, whoa, come on, Alyssa. Come, I told you. I said this. I'm gonna read it in a minute. Alyssa throws some of the hardest low blow. Like, look, when Joseph was trying to campaign and trying to save himself during last Thursday during BB Dire Fest, what did Alyssa do while Joseph was talking? She cut him off. Said, "Wait a minute, I'm talking right now." Like Alyssa has what am I trying to say here? She just has a mean streak that doesn't show, but once it does, you can't. She doesn't mince words. You know what I mean? You don't have to like when she finally does like turn the heat up. She doesn't mince words. She doesn't talk a lot that I can tell, that I can see. But whenever she's upset, you don't wonder if she's upset. You know what I mean? And she'll cut into a person, right? So the second thing that she says is, in my opinion, more devastating than the first sentence. She says, let me see here. Here it is. She says, I couldn't see myself having children with you. What? She said, she tells Kyle, I can't see myself having children with you. So I don't know if they had this conversation before. I don't know if they had talked about this prior, but dude, that is maybe they've talked about this. You live feed, people probably know this better than I do, but I don't see this working outside the house. That's one thing, but I couldn't see myself having children with you. That's impactful. And her rationale was, you didn't tell me things. You've offered me up as a sacrifice when I didn't know it. And technically, basically, I just can't see myself aligning myself with an individual like that. Someone who wouldn't protect me in all cases, in all causes. I mean, and then, my selfishness kicked in. I said, Alyssa, it's a game. It's a game. And then I thought to myself, maybe she didn't like him as much as I thought, right? She has somebody back home. That's number one. And the thing with Kyle seemed to be circumstantial. It seemed to be something that was taking place because they were in the same environment. And I feel as though if they were not in the same environment, that relationship just doesn't happen, whether it be because Alyssa is not attracted to Kyle or maybe Kyle's too shy to even say anything to Alyssa. I have no idea. But the point is, she just hit him with the most, so the question remains. Then the theme for this video is, do you support Alyssa's reason for breaking up? I mean, and this is a very interesting topic on the basis that, at what point do you have to cut things off with someone, even if you love them? If you're in a relationship with somebody, how many strikes do they get? Does the fact that they had a relationship in a strategic game matter at all? Do you feel that Alyssa was piling on because Kyle was down? There has to be some sympathists out there who feel like, hey, this was terrible timing on her part. She used him. There got to be some people who feel that way, right? Because I'm looking at both sides of the coin. That's what I try to do. I try to be fair and look at both sides of what's taking place, not just one side. That's what a lot of people do, especially on Twitter. They just look at one side of the coin and they stay there and they will fight anybody who opposes their viewpoint. But what I try to do is a little different. I try to look at both sides of the coin and say, hey, and then make a synopsis about what I'm seeing from both sides. So looking at the other side of the coin, was it a situation in which Alyssa didn't really like the guy? She was using him in a more situational relationship. I mean, a situational relationship. The fact that he was a male. I mean, if you remember, we go back to the beginning of the game when Paloma, Alyssa, Indy, Brittany, they were in a room, right? And what were they talking about? They were talking about infiltrating the boys and breaking down their alliance. You know, that rudimentary Big Brother gameplay that let's start a girls alliance. I mean, it's always the first alliance in the Big Brother game, right? But anyway, they're having that conversation in the room, and you can't help but think back to that and say, maybe there's something to that. Maybe, in trying to create a circumference for the women's alliance, it's like, hey, Alyssa's like, hey, I'll take Kyle. I'll figure him out. He seems to be really green. He doesn't seem to be someone who has a lot of experience with dating. I should be able to wrap this guy around my finger. And then in doing so, she starts to generate more feelings, right? And and when he's down, you see Alyssa not even speak, doesn't mention anything about or to him. And when he's down, she's like, all right, well, I've had fun with you. I'm done with you. She's a man eater. She's a man eater. I tell you, she's a man eater, right? And then we have to talk about this because when who was it? Someone approaches Alyssa about the comments made by Kyle. I believe it was. I know who it is now. I believe it was Michael and Brittany. They confront Alyssa and they tell Alyssa what Kyle has said. And Alyssa does not defend Kyle. She does not come to his aid. She doesn't even try to explain it away. I think someone who really liked Kyle, genuinely liked Kyle, would have said, hey, maybe he said this, maybe he said that. Maybe he didn't mean it this way, but she really doesn't say anything. And in fact, I would argue that she kind of pushes him away in that moment. But to her defense, following that conversation, she goes and revealed to Kyle. She's the first one to reveal it to Kyle. And she doesn't do so in a way that's point the finger or vindictive. She pretty much enlightens him and say, hey, some information is going on about you around the house. So she does do that, but I don't see her take that stance when she's actually engaging in conversation with Michael and Brittany. So the question remains, do you support her decision to break up with Kyle? If you're in a relationship, if you've ever been in one, if you're in the game of Big Brother, big question coming up. If you're in the game of Big Brother with your spouse, okay, are you okay with them withholding information? Would that be a deal breaker for you if they're not telling you something about the game or some type of hidden alliance? Would you actually hold that against them? More so, would you, not be comfortable with moving forward with them, whether it be in a relationship or the game itself, should they have been wrapped up in some type of controversy? Okay, in this case, Kyle is the victim, in my opinion, the victim of a great attorney, strategic player like a Michael. I mean, this is what they do. They take information from, criminals and then they flip it. So you said that you were at the corner store, but you didn't say what time. This is what they do. They take information and they flip it. This is why, Michael doesn't tell people that he's an attorney. You think he would have set off some alarms had he told everyone that he was attorney from the beginning of the game? Of course he would have, but he doesn't do that. Why? Because he understands his brilliance. And I have to say, I really applaud that. Though this one to me touches home a lot more than most things in this game. I just felt that potentially ruining a person's reputation to that extent was just a little bit crossing the line. But what Michael has shown me is that he is willing to do anything in this game. And trust me, the day is coming when he'll probably, if he makes it that far, he's going to detach and destroy Brittany. Okay. He's keeping her close. Someone said in one of my Facebook groups that I'm a part of, they said that he's using Brittany as a bulletproof vest. I've never heard that analogy, but it wouldn't surprise me now that I've seen what Michael was capable of. But nevertheless, I'm done with this topic. I just wanted to share it. I just wanted to talk with some people and see what you thought about Alyssa breaking up with Kyle. Do you feel like it was a low blow, or do you support this decision? Has Kyle just dug his own or is he responsible for his own BB demise? Okay, he revealed the information about the leftovers, and if I'm not mistaken, he did that without conferring with Alyssa. Isn't that something that you would like your partner to discuss with you before they do? Because them doing that has great implications on your game. So if you think about the number of things that Kyle's done in the face of Alyssa, that being not taking her down from the block, that means revealing, gameplay information, being willing to at one point or another show the alliance that he's probably he's faithful to the alliance even at the expense of Alyssa. Getting caught up in a controversy that absolutely affects her game. I mean, has those things added up to a point where you just can't support Kyle moving forward? Now, I will be the first to say this. I believe in 3 months or so, Kyle and Alyssa will be on Instagram side by side, because I don't think that it's possible that those two, their romantic connection, I don't feel that was fabricated. I feel like it was genuine. I felt that it was budding, and I think that, and I may be wrong here. Okay, I may be wrong here, but I believe that Alyssa is under the pressure of cancel culture, right? If she goes forth with Kyle on national television, these people are not stupid. They understand the ramifications of everything that's taking place. If she decides to go forth with Kyle on national television, that might not look good optically. But if you fade out the public's memory 3 or 4 months down the line, it might be a great time to, hey, give Kyle a call, hit him up on IG or whatever it is, Instagram, whatever they have, and say, hey, you want to hang out? That might be the time where it happens. I'm not sure that Alyssa is prepared for that level of backlash by being so closely associated with Kyle. What do you think about it? Let me know. What's up, Tim? Too much double eviction coming up. To I don't know. You know what? I was very surprised by that, Tim. I thought that we were only doing one double eviction, and I cannot wait to see what happens. In fact, Tim, I'm gonna ask you right now while I got you here. Who do you want to see? What two individuals would you like to see go home? Oh, okay, yeah. I think it was way too soon in the game to get rid of his love. Yeah, you're right about it. Um, I don't know. It's a lot going on. I don't know. But yeah, Tim, I'm very curious, and perhaps you can let me know what you think. Okay, Michael and Britt. All right. So you know what, Tim? I'm gonna be honest with you, because my question to Tim, if you're watching this, was, we have double eviction taking place on Thursday. I asked him who does he want to see, which two players does he want to see go home, and you know what's funny? He says Michael and Brittany, and you won't believe this. That's exactly the two names I thought of. Now, I don't have any money on this game. I have not gambled on the game of Big Brother, but I will say this: I picked two players at the very beginning, and those two players were Pooch and Michael. All right. And I'm not saying I want Michael and Brittany to go home. I just think that based on where the game is now, it is possible. So apparently, I would argue that Tim and I are seeing some of the same things. But you know what else? I want to point this out before I close this episode down. One thing that I want to note and just kind of point out, it seems like every week the dynamics of the game change so much that people you just despised at one point, it doesn't carry over like I expected to. And I'll give you some examples of that. Terrence. Terrence has done wonders for how I perceived him in the beginning. In the beginning, I saw like a bus driver DJ who was chauvinistic towards women, and now I'm seeing so much more. Am I forgiving him for the earlier things he said? Not even close. However, I'm realizing that with people, they're more dynamic and they have more depth than the things that may come out their mouth at one particular moment. Is that stuff in him? Of course it is. You don't call Taylor a H word if it's not in you, but there's more to him. I mean, we all have parts of our being that are not necessarily appropriate at all times. I'll give you another one. What's another one? I'll give you Kyle. Listen, Kyle was the scum of the earth last week, but I guarantee you the way that the game or BB has edited his camera time, he certainly won some people back. How many times were you about to cry? Like you may not have shed a tear, but you had to be feeling some kind of way emotionally. It's like when you hear a Celine Dion song come on. You don't want to cry necessarily, but you feel your body starting to feel kind of queasy. That happened a lot during this episode, and people despise Kyle. I'm one of the individuals who was like, I just thought that was the dumbest move, Kyle, to reveal the leftover. I thought it was absolutely a bad move. Too soon to do that. But once he survives, and then Turner becomes the HOH, some of that goes away, and then you also see, that hero edit certainly start to chip away at some of the anger that I have for Kyle. That happens. You know what I mean? So there you have it. Sometimes from week to week, things change. And the reason I'm saying that is because I believe that next week I'll forget how much I don't like Michael right now. I'm gonna say that on the record. I think next week because here's another example, but in reverse. Just last week, people were for all intents and purposes singing the praises of Michael. Now look, he's the scum of the earth because of this move he pulled. So it just seems to me that the gameplay and the emotions attached to the gameplay change from week to week. So I'm not ready to throw Michael into the blender. If you're wondering, I'm not ready to do that yet. Okay, but I'm telling you, he certainly has shown me enough to make me know that he is a player that is willing to do what he has to. And I'm going to end this here, okay? Because I got something else I want to talk about. Now that my main man Tim has revealed to me that Michael is the HOH, that changes a lot for the way I see the game moving forward. And I'll be back in just a moment to discuss what I think, okay? Let me go back here real quick. I think Turner and Alyssa goes up for sure. Turner and Alyssa, okay. All right. I can see that as well. Yeah. All right, but I want to talk about that in a separate episode. That way, I'm not confusing the individuals who click this for the Kyle and Alyssa conversation. But without question, there's a lot to break down with Michael being the HOH. So, with that being said, I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I know it's late, but I'll be right back in about 10 to 15 minutes, ready to talk about talk about Michael winning the HOH. Can you believe that happened? All right, so stay tuned. I'll be back. Peace.